Well, joining me now from Brussels is Eugenio Ambrosi. He's the EU Regional Director for the International Organization for Migration, or IOM. In Rome, Marco Cecchini. He's a former spokesman for the Italian Economy and Finance Ministry. And in Berlin, we have Georg Pazderski. He's the Deputy Federal Chairman of the Alternative for Germany Party, or AfD. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Marco Cecchini, let me begin with you. As the Italian on the panel, was Italy right to reject those migrants and say, not our problem, you cannot disembark here?
I think that the move of the Italian Interior Minister Salvini was right in the sense that it obtained the result of moving the waters in Europe and putting all the European partners in front of the reality of enormous immigration inflows all over in Europe.
Marco, if
this is only the first...
Certainly. If those 630 people had died, would it have been worth it still?
In fact, Italy in the last years has contributed to save many lives of immigrants. We are in a sort of tragedy. It's a tragedy in action here in the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, some incidents are unavoidable. But the point is that this is only the first step. So make clear that this is a tragedy, this is a problem that Europe has to face and has to try to solve.
Okay.
The next steps are of course more difficult because Okay?
Let me bring in Eugenio Ambrosi here. So we're hearing from Marco Cecchini that the Interior Minister made the right decision. At the IOM, I guess you're not very happy that the Italians said no, and I guess you're very happy that the Spanish eventually allowed the boats to disembark and to dock. But do you accept that the Italians have a point, Eugenio?
Yes, well, first of all, we are extremely happy that the Spanish government has accepted the boat, Aquarius, and helped the 630 migrants. Yes, Italy has a point, and we have said this several times over the past few years. Not just Italy, but all the frontline states have a point. The weight of the increased immigration flow into Europe cannot be shouldered only by the frontline state. That is not fair and makes very little sense. So we have been advocating for a mechanism that is fair and that involves the responsibility of all the EU member states. That's why you have a union to begin with. I think however, that this is a very complex political discussion that has been taking place in the various institutions of the EU for now a couple of years without reaching any concrete result. And that is very dangerous to continue to debate, quote unquote, this issue on the life of migrants that are already stranded at sea. Saving life has to be the top priority, and the political negotiation and debate and fight can take place in the appropriate site elsewhere, not in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Okay, so let's go to Georg Pazderski. Your party is doing a lot of that fighting in terms of anti-immigrant sentiment in Germany. Don't you accept that saving lives must be a top priority? Spain has done the humane thing here.
I think if you're looking to the situation, then you can see that we cannot solve the problem in Europe or in Germany. We have to find solutions in the home countries of these people. And if you're looking to the people who are coming to Europe, only a few or a certain percentage are refugees. Most of them are asylum seekers because of economic reasons. So we have to send out a clear signal to these people and say, no, you cannot all come to Europe. And we have to look for solutions that these people will have an outcome in their home countries. And this is a position of the AfD.
So allow me to come in here for a second.
If the European Union is not able to...
Certainly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the European Union is very divided politically over this now. And you say the root causes need to be addressed in the home countries. And that's fair enough, whether that's in Sudan or Eritrea or Sierra Leone. That's one argument, right? Sort out the root causes so that people don't have to leave in order to try and risk their lives and make it to Europe. But here, Europe was faced with a choice. There were more than 600 people on this boat who would have died if Spain didn't take them on board. So I ask you, isn't it the humane thing? There's no time to go through who's a refugee, who's a migrant. These people are going to die unless you help them. Do you accept that you need to help them?
Certainly you have to help them, but on the other hand, you can also think about to bring them back to their place where they started. Why they are coming to Europe? They are not coming for refugee reasons to Europe. Most of them are coming for economic reasons to Europe. And we have to send out, I said it already, a clear signal to these people. You cannot come to Europe if I have only economic reasons. We certainly want to help refugees. We certainly want to help asylum seekers if they are looking for asylum for political, religious or other reasons. But we cannot save the whole world, and we cannot save the whole continent of Africa. And this must be the signals the European Union sends out.
Marco Cecchini, the French President Emmanuel Macron, accused the Italian government of, quote, cynicism and irresponsibility for refusing to take Aquarius. How do you feel about that?
Well, I wish to underline here a different behavior of President Macron and Chancellor Merkel. I don't have any reason to be against President Macron, but I think that the best way to face this problem of migration in Europe is to collaborate and not to create more tensions between partners. So I underline that the German government didn't make any comment even on the creation of a new government in Italy. And Chancellor Merkel has taken a very cautious approach. I think that it's the best way to do with this problem, because the situation even here in Italy is in evolution. Right. So it's not so clear where the government is going.
Certainly. But Marco, it's interesting, right? You know that this is happening. Merkel's only being cautious because of internal domestic reasons, right? She's been given a couple of weeks by her coalition partners to scrap the immigration law, or else she'll lose them as coalition partners. She's not doing it out of sort of pan-European solidarity. You'd accept that, right?
No, I don't think that Merkel is having this cautious approach only for the internal domestic political problems of Germany. It's a style. It's a style of Chancellor Merkel. They don't want to appear as a country that interferes in the domestic affairs of another partner. This is why Germans have always the problem of do not appear like an hegemony, a sort of too strong country. But it's true that the domestic problems, and in particular the next Bavarian election, are conditioning all the domestic politics in Germany.
Right.
I think that, okay.
Right. Let me ask Georg, the German on the panel, does the future belong to you? Anti-immigrant, don't come to our country. It's not going to be easy to come to our country. It's working in Italy, it's working in Hungary, and that's what you want for Germany? Is that how you feel?
Certainly, because Germany took the biggest burden in the migration crisis. We took since 2015 1.6 million migrants in Germany, and this is a huge burden. For instance, if you're looking also to the native population, our violent crime rate increased by 10%. Though people in Germany are very concerned about what is going on in Europe, and the European Union is not able to protect its borders. So everybody can come to Europe, everybody who is looking for asylum, and nobody is really checking them. And this means there is something going dramatically wrong, and we have to do something against it.
Although correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation in terms of violent crime going up with the refugees coming in. Donald Trump supports that theory. He's been tweeting.
It's by 10%. It's definitively.
Again, there's a correlation, right? It doesn't mean causation. Donald Trump's been tweeting about it in support of anti-immigrant sentiment. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Let me go to the IOM man now, because this is fascinating. Eugenio, you have to deal with all these different nation states. The IOM over the past couple of years has been absorbed within the UN architecture. Are you dealing, when you're dealing with Europe, are you dealing with two Europes here? Are you dealing with the pro-immigration wing of Europe, and then the other Europe, which is the Europe of Austria and Hungary and now Italy and so forth? Are you dealing with two Europes?
Well, we are dealing with all the European member states that are also IOM member states. So, of course, we are dealing with the various policy and approach to this issue that the various member states or group of member states have within Europe, and, of course, also outside Europe. Our role, I think, is to try to find a proper balancing point between the various approach and the various vision. And to do that, I think it's important to look at facts, to try to clarify the issue as much as possible, to remind everybody in Europe, but also elsewhere in the world, that first of all, the majority of migration doesn't come towards Europe. It happens in the case of Africa, within Africa itself. The majority of refugees are not in Europe. The majority of refugees are in the global south. So no, we are not shouldering the problem of the world here in Europe. We are shouldering a significant part in certain countries and less significant in other countries. The challenge here is to find a way for Europe to actually act as a union and not to deviate the problem that we are having in the EU to find a common way of acting on these issues on the victims themselves, the migrants in the middle of the sea.
Eugenio?
Yes, it's true that
if it
the
allow me to
refugee
ask
needs to be protected and the other one returned.
Sorry? If it allow me to ask you very directly, Georg says migrants cause crime. Is that true?
No, there is no real correlation that has been proven between the two. If you look, for example, at the case of Italy, migration has increased in the last 3 years, but crime indicators have gone down. So in other countries might be different, but I don't think there has been any scientific proof that the increase in criminality is directly correlated to migration. The majority, if not all, the terrorist acts that we have had in Europe have been carried out by European citizens, not by people coming from abroad. This is a link that so far has not been proven.
Okay, and I wish we had more time because the two of you could debate that, but I want to wrap this up with Marco now. Marco, I guess in the final analysis, let me ask you if what Salvini did is essentially populist and democratic. It's what the Italian people want. Is that true?
Yes, it's what the Italian people want. And right now, the last survey is indicating that, for example, that the Salvini party has overcome the five-star party. That is what Italians want for only one reason. That is that Italy has an emergency that consists in its incapacity of managing the center of where the immigrants are received. So, and this inefficiency has a result that hundreds of immigrants at the end stay just in front of a railway station or in the squares doing nothing. For a population so old like the Italian population is, seeing this mass of people doing nothing, these black people, is something that makes fear. So the Italians fear something that is that they don't know.
Gentlemen, It's been a pleasure. Georg Pazderski, Eugenio Ambrosi, and Marco Cecchini. Thanks for joining us.
You
on
are
Newsmakers.
welcome.